Hello friends, this is Colby the Dungeon Man again here with you for another video, this time about how to customize your character sheet on Roll20, the virtual tabletop. And this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer one because it will take some time to get things set up the way that it is possible. But some classes, some races make it shorter, and I am, remember, pretty much an OCD perfectionist, so I like to have things set up a very certain way. But we are not really going to go into the rules of the game, like, how it affects that, or talk about what a lot of different things are. We will save those for another video, or the rule books and core books and source books if you prefer. To note, for this, you could see a different thing depending on your game master. I allow my players the ability to fully edit and control their character sheet just like you would control yours in a paper and pencil situation. So just remember that, if you accidentally click something, oh no, well, hopefully you printed a PDF of this or did a screenshot and saved it to your computer for future reference. So just be cautious when doing things that you're unfamiliar with until you get used to it, okay? We can change some settings, but that really takes you down to only being able to look at the bio and see the token. So it definitely changes the game. You can't really even move it, move your token on the game map or anything. So yeah, it would definitely be hard for you to do. So let's just get you ready to know how to control your character sheet and set it up. Alrighty? So we've got our character ready. Again, once you launch the game, you just go into your journal, find where your character sheet is. Oh, here's mine down here. And you click on it and it pops up your character sheet. Okay? Up at the top, there's 3 tabs. Character sheet, bio and info, attributes and abilities. We'll go into these in more detail shortly. Then editing takes you back to where you can edit like your token picture, your avatar picture and stuff. It's not the actual charactermancer or anything. And your pop out windows here, again, I don't recommend using that feature at this time. Wait until the new software goes live September 17th. Alrighty? Alright, so on the character sheet, remember you can always change your character name. You can just type it in there. You're going to see your class and your level here. Remember that's your level up button. Your background here, race, alignment, experience points, might be milestone if you're leveling that way in a game. But basically a core thing you're going to see throughout the sheet is this cogwheel pop up. And clicking that allows you to edit any of this information in here, okay? So you can add in like a subrace and it'll put in there, not sure why it's not the exact stuff that's right there, but I think you can just click in here and go ahead and just retype whatever you want. Sometimes this puts in a really long description. I like to just keep it short for the background name, but that's completely up to you. Alrighty. Okay, over here you are going to have your ability scores and the ability score modifiers. So if you look at your strength here, you've got 3 as the modifier because of the 16. Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma are all similar to that. There's really not much you can change or edit about that, which is perfectly fine. This would be where if you are awarded inspiration points, you would just click in here and it adds that nice little dragon. And remember, you can only hold 1 inspiration point at a time, so when you use it, you just click it off. Okay? Your proficiency bonus is going to be right here. Again, that doesn't change very often. When you do level up through the Character Mancer, it will accordingly adjust your proficiency bonus when you reach that point in your class's ladder. Right here is going to be your saving throws. And we're fixing to look at something else here in a bit that's called a global modifier. We're going to wait till we kind of get through the rest of this sheet to discuss those because they are a little more advanced, but they are definitely useful for every player, so I do want to get to them, okay? But this would be your saving throw, and this is your proficiency. So if there's a blue box that is checked, then that means you're proficient in it and gives you that higher score. But again, if you accidentally click on the box here, watch what happens to that 5. It becomes a 3. So you want to make sure that you try not to click these boxes unless there is a spell or something is changing that. Okay? That's not something you can just change willy-nilly, of course. I know I said I won't get into, the rules of 5e, but every once in a while we'll mention something. So that's your saving throws. Again, saving throws are used when a game master calls for them, normally to prevent damage or protect yourself against something. If you're going to be doing an action yourself or performing an action or against somebody else or against an environment, you are going to end up rolling more of your ability skills down here. Again, blue box checked means that it is proficient. And again, it would, vary based on what proficiency bonus adds and what your original score was, as these are all modified by the ability score that is noted here in the parentheses. So acrobatics from dexterity, arcana from intellect. You can't really see the animal handling over there. I think it's from intellect maybe, or wisdom. So you can see all those, charisma, strength, and all that. Okay. Down here is going to be your passive wisdom perception, which some game masters don't use it. A lot of times what I will do in my games is, once everybody creates theirs, I will put it into a note for myself. And let's say that y'all are walking through a hallway in a mansion and no one is actively searching for secret doors or traps. If you come across a point where there is one, what I might do is privately roll to myself a d20, and if what I roll for y'all beats any of those scores, then I will let you know something about whatever it is I just rolled for. Okay. So that perception, the passive wisdom, is different than just your standard perception check. All right. Going down a little further here, you're going to see tool proficiencies and custom skills. Sadly for my cleric, I guess we just don't have any. This would be things like musical instruments for a bard, or thieves' tools for a rogue, something like that, okay? Another fantastic feature of Roll20 is that all of this is customizable. You will see over and over again the box that has the plus and the box that has a lock. If you click on the plus, you can actually add in anything to this. So if there is something that you and your game master have talked about, or if there's a homebrew that you're going to be using, you can give it a name here. Colby's skills. Proficiency bonus, this would be, is it expertise, is it just proficient, or is it like the jack of all trades or something? So on this it would probably just be proficient. The attribute will say, you can always query an attribute, and what that will do is it'll just pop up a window that says, what attribute would you like to use? So you would then pick one of these. We'll just put query attribute. Modifiers, if there's anything, and this is kind of showing as it goes through, we'll put a modifier here of +1. How about? there we are. Once you've kind of got that set, just hit enter, and then you're going to see how it pops up, and it asks you, okay, what's the attribute? And you do whatever it is at that moment, and it would roll your die for you and stuff, okay? Oh, and to kind of confirm this, you just click the cogwheel again, and now it breaks it down to just the main stuff. But if you click on it, again, it's going to use the sheet to roll, okay? The other thing that's nice is you can click the lock. If it is locked, you click it to unlock it, and you can either reorganize things, like we'll do here, okay? You can just bounce those around however you like, then lock it back. Or you can delete something if you don't like the way it looks in there, you want to put it somewhere else, or you lose that skewer. So that's where you could change that. So again, that's going to be for most all of these panels that you can do stuff with. Their proficiencies and languages are right here. This is just where it's going to list your armor type that you're proficient in, any languages you know, and any weapons that you might have. If you're like me and you're OCD and it annoys you that weapons isn't capitalized, fine, just click it, change it, cogwheel, done. Okay? So, again, you can order it how you want, and you can add more if you and your game master decide they need to be. Going back up to the top now, we're going to see your armor classes here. Here in a bit, I'm going to again show you some ways that you can modify this without having to type it every time or something. This is your initiative modifier. Mine is a -1 because I only have an 8 in dexterity. Speed right there. Really, there's other... If you have a spell that changes your speed, you can change that. I know on my game, on the tokens, I generally will display the hit points and temporary hit points, and then either the armor class or the speed, depending on which is most important. If we're more traveling, it'll be speed. If we're more in combat, more armor class. So you can change it there as well. Just remember, in most of Roll20, there are normally at least 2 ways to achieve something that you're trying to do, okay? Your hit point maximum is going to be listed right here in this small box. Then the big one is going to be for actually counting, like as you take damage. And as you hover over that, you just see a simple up and down. If you take damage, scroll down. If you are healed, scroll up. Only if you change actual hit points, and we're not talking about temporary hit points. Temporary, you would just click right here, type however many you have, and then you use them until they are up. Okay. Whoop. So there's your current hit points, your temporary hit points, your hit die. This is how many of this particular die. Clerics have a D8. So that's 2 of the D8s, and apparently I did really well in getting, well, yeah, because I've got a 3 Constitution modifier too, so that was great when I first started to getting that. So yay for rolls there. Right over here is death saves, similar to saving throws, but this is actually when you are reduced to 0 hit points. And not killed outright, this would be where you would need to focus. Again, going under the rules that are basic in 5e would dictate how long you would stay that way if you failed or succeeded. If you succeed on your rolls, then after 3 you get up. If you don't, you permanently die. Sorry. So there's your death saves. You can just click those on as you roll. Yay, we survive. Okay. Right here is going to be a very important panel, the attacks and spellcasting. This already loads in most of this based on things coming over from your spell sheet or from weapons that are in your equipment, or again if you add something like you and your game master discuss, you add it, and you just kind of type through. All of the gray font is just showing, hey, you can type something here. It's not saying that's what it is. If you hit a space, it disappears. Okay? So, but again, you would name it. If it's an attack, if it's got damage or possibly has damage, if there's a second type of damage, or is it a saving throw? If so, what's the save? Or does it add your proficiency bonus? All of these things you would just fill out accordingly, okay? And that will add your attack in, okay? So we'll get through a little bit of this, and then we'll come back and add in some stuff to see that work a little bit more. But you can see here we've got like 2 magic missiles that are listed. I don't know why. I think probably when I did the level up character mancer, maybe I clicked it again and I didn't think about it. So you could always unlock, delete, log it back. So we will, in the next video, we are going to go over how to actually play the game, which will involve us showing you like how all this, shows up over here into your chat. But basically, most of this stuff is clickable on demand, and it rolls. So, yeah, that's what it does. And it puts that output into the chat. And if it's public, everybody sees it. If it's just the GM, only the GM sees it. So, yeah. So it tells you everything, 1d4 plus 1 force damage for that. So if you hit on magic missiles, you can roll your damage. I will show you another, actually you can't miss really with a magic missile, I guess, unless they have like catch missile or something, or deflect missile, whatever it's called. But yeah, so you have your healing, so you could just click here, but I will show you another way to roll for damage and healing later on. That's your attacks and spell casting. Alright. Down here in the equipment panel, we are going to have your currency. I started off with the class equipment, so that gives you 15 gold pieces. If you don't know the actual conversions of all of the money in the realm, you could just go to your compendium and I bet type in currency. I hate doing things on the fly without knowing that I picked it up. Oh, look. Yeah. You click this, it pops open a window, and it starts talking about all of the stuff. So, there you go. This will educate you on what you may not know. Alright. And remember, if you wanted to downsize that, just double click up there at the header and move it over to wherever you want. So that's your currency. Then up here you have your items, okay? You're going to have, is it equipped right here, okay? That becomes important here in a few minutes. I'll show you why. This is your quantity, I'm sorry, not your quantity. Yes, it is. Yeah, I don't know why we're, okay. Anyway, so you've got that right here, 1 prayer wheel, 1 holy symbol, 5 stick of incense. So, and again, if you want to edit any of that, you can pretty much just click into these. And if you need to change over here, oh, this is the weight. I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah, quantity, weight. There you go. Bad Colby the Dungeon Man. So yeah, here's where it will become handy. Alright, so you can see, for example, I have a shield right here, okay? A shield will give +1 to your armor class, so you can see that there with the 15. Well, watch what happens, and I'm probably not going to be able to get these two in the same thing, am I? Nope. But watch what happens if I unequip the shield, which is click off the blue button. My armor class. Oh no, it went from 15 to 13. Oh yeah, by the way, it's 2. Sorry. Again, not rules. So, that is when you equip and unequip. So if I were to unequip my scale mail, that's going to drop my armor class down to 9. So, yeah, that's how you can, if you're taking off your armor to take a long rest, and you put your shield, maybe to a blacksmith for repairs, you would just unclick it for the time until it's back in your possession and equipped, and you would go ahead and then click it back on, and it adds all of your ratings right on back to your armor class or an appropriate ability or modifier or something. So most of the items in equipment, hemp and robe, water, skin, rations, not a thing that's going to adjust combat. Excuse me, I am so sorry. But if you lose your hemp and rope, you may want to unclick it until you buy some at the local vendors. You can also change your quantities here. So if you use a ration and you want to delete that out, then you go to 9, and you're now updated. Okay. I am going to show you one other cool thing you can do here in a bit to make some of your more commonly used items a little bit more trackable. Okay. This will keep based on your weight here, and I tell you, there's still a few things in D&D that do not have a weight that is exclusively provided, so sometimes you have to Google that or research it somehow, and once you add in over here on the weight, you actually want to well, maybe no. Okay. I think it's just really fit. There it is. Sorry, my mouse pointer that I changed just for y'all makes it a little difficult. So you just click in there and you can change the weight. So if I change it to 25 pounds, here you go, and it puts your equipment total weight up. If your game master keeps track of those things, this is important to keep track of. If he doesn't, I'm normally not too worried about it until I have somebody that's carrying, a storage building on their back, and then I might, talk to them. So, but anyways, the other thing you can do when you click on, I know it's kind of hard to see, it's an eye in a circle, which normally indicates information. Click on that. You can see the blue box here, again, being equipped, so this is just a longer way to unequip and equip. Use as a resource is a great thing for tracking, especially items that you might be using more often. Let's not do that. Let's say my torches. Yes, torches. Use as a resource. If you click this, up here under the resource area, you're going to see it put torch 10, okay? So that's a great way to kind of keep track of your stuff. And the nice thing is, so you could put, maybe it's like, if I would have chosen arrows, maybe put 10 up here in the total, and then as you use them through combat, you can, arrow it down. But then if after combat you go and pick up some of your arrows, if you go back up to 8, great, now you have 8. If you need to change your total, change your total. If you just want to remember to buy 2 or make 2 later, you can do that as well. Okay. The other great thing is you can click this cogwheel here to bring up a few more options. This right here would actually use your proficiency bonus. So instead of the total number of 10 or 8, you click that, click the cogwheel, and it says total is 2 because your proficiency bonus is 2. Okay, so that might come in handy on things like some of your class traits or racial features. Might be a really good way to use that. Okay. This could be like counting down resources until you have a short rest or long rest. And that's one reason resources and rest are so close to each other. Also, when you click on the cogwheel, reset on, speaking of, will show short rest or long rest. So if anytime you take a short rest, your torches are restocked magically, maybe you have an errand boy or something, then you would click that, and then when you click the short rest, watch the numbers going to change, and it now matches 2 to 2. Okay? Again, because we're using proficiency bonus. If we don't do that and we just do 10, and now we do a short rest, that goes up to 10. Long rest is the other option. If something is set on a short rest, you don't have to click, and let's say you take a long rest, you don't have to click on both short rest and long rest. Clicking on a long rest gives all of the benefits that are assigned to short rest as well. So you just one click long rest or short rest, because things like hit points and spell slots may not reset on a long rest unless you are a class that has that ability. So again, this is a great way to keep up with your resources. Oh, and it's probably going to be difficult because of my cursor again, but you can look at that first time. Click there and rename it to Colby's Torches. There you go. So, and this one is, I don't know, they put 2 next to each other by default. So if you don't use this one, just leave it blank for now until you track something else, and then you can track it. So, has an attack. What that's going to do, if you select that, is it adds it up here into your attacks and spell casting, and there it would say. Then, based on the settings for it, it's going to give you this stuff here. So you may have to modify that based on what it is. That would just kind of depend on what you need to do, but you would be able to add in some stuff here as well. Not too much. I think there's a pretty limited space, and you definitely don't want to see it, but I think property feature here if you ever want to. So, but yeah, so item type, adventuring, gear, damage, whatever. Like, let's say that we don't want damage. Damage type is fire, range, So let's, I don't know why you would have an attack for something that doesn't deal damage, but just for example, then you can change that there and it will clear it out. Okay, again, it's kind of hard to click into. I think on the new character sheets you will see that this is a little better fleshed out and easier to read. Okay, but this will at least get you through using it here. And let's say we just want to go ahead and delete that up there. Again, use that lock. Alright, so that's your equipment. Up here is your characteristics. This comes from your background choices that you make earlier during the character creation. If you need to change any of it, you can. Just click the cogwheel again, scroll down, change it, click the cogwheel to save it. Okay. One thing that took me years to know, you can click on that and it, looky there, it condenses that so that you have more space to see some of the things that more often you need to deal with especially with combat and stuff. But characteristics may be great for while you're role-playing, so definitely keep that option to expand and contract, okay? Again, short rest, long rest, I think we've pretty much explained that, but again, if you see your hit points go down, but then you take a long rest, watch those hit points are going to go right back up to 19, alrighty? On a short rest, that would not be on a short rest. I think, what is it? It's you can roll up to the number of hit die that you have and regain that many hit points, which might really fulfill it, but who knows. All right. Down here is your features and trees. This is a big area that you're going to be clicking on a bunch. Again, kind of that reddish color means that you can click on it and then expand something, just like up here in the characteristics, okay? Features and traits. Number 1, I like to always sort this. First, I put my racial items, then I put my background, then I put my class items, and then any additional level things as I gain levels, I would add them in. So I always like to kind of sort this and move it, so if I take my racials, I'm going to put them up here. Draconic Cry, Cobalt Legacy, sorry this cursor's kind of hard to see at times, my Defiance, there we go. Then I would want to put my background up here, and then I would leave it for things that come into my cleric, okay? Um, and you can see there's a couple of different things that come with class. It may be just class cleric. It may be class the Arcana domain, which is, remember, that feature that you pick at level 1. So those are linked together. And again, depending on, like, we just got Channel Divinity at level 2. Well, if you want it to match to where all of your items that are showing class and cleric are together, then you could move this around and put your Arcana domain down at the bottom if you want it. But for now, as long as it's something starting with class, I'm going to keep it kind of from first level, second level, and we'll add third and fourth as we go on, okay? So I'm going to lock that back. But let's use this filter here. And look, you can filter it down if you want just to racials. Boom, done. Or just to class features, done. So, you know, depending on what you're using, yay, we don't have any others, but again, we could add that because you would name it here. This would be custom name, source here, racial, class, feat, background, item, or other. So if you click the other here and say GM custom, okay, meaning that you and your game master have discussed something, then it's there, and now it shows up when you filter other items, okay? But you just kind of go through and pull these up, alrighty? If you go back to the filter by, it goes ahead and lists everything on there, okay? We'll go ahead and delete that one out for now. Alright, so that is your core page. The next page I would direct you to go to isn't actually the bio. We're going to jump right over to spells. Again, if you are a class, you know, a fighter, a barbarian, a rogue, that you don't have any spells, then you're really not going to have anything in here. But this may also be a very important part to some of our caster friends. So, there we go. We want to take care of them. Alright, so you are first going to see that this kind of tells you the core info, these headers, alright? This is your cantrips, which are considered like, you know, 0 level, okay? Cantrips being that the difference is that you can cast cantrips an unlimited amount of times, and they don't have any spell slots. They don't take a spell slot, they don't give a spell slot. At least I don't think there are any cantrips that do. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Whereas, you know, here, level 1 spells, I currently have 3 slots. So, this means I can cast only 3 spells at first level. Okay, that's important to know. Currently, I don't have any second level spells. Remember, spell levels are not the same as class or character levels, okay? Spells only go through level 9, alright? So maybe about every other level you would see some of this change. Some of them, like the Paladin, advance slower. They are more of a hybrid class, whereas, you know, the Cleric it's also a hybrid class, but it is a little more on the spell hybrid class. They advance, you know, they start off with spells at level 1, and they get them faster and more often as they advance in level, alright? So, if you cast a spell at level 1, you would just go right here, click it down, and there you go, alright? There are some things like API scripts that I will get into in a different video that will only be available to either a game master who has a pro subscription for Roll20 and shares with his game players, or if you have a pro subscription, okay? But again, we will get into those details later, alright? So, cantrips... all of my spells, actually, I like to, again, let's at least order them alphabetically. You know, they're in the different levels. So you click this, and, you know, I think let's see, we got Toll the Dead, we got Firebolt's going to go up here, Guidance, Sacred Flame, Toll the Dead, and Mending would go there. I think I spelled everything correctly and moved it appropriately. Yay! Alright. So, It's going to tell you the name, okay? Over here on the far right, you're going to see, and there are varyings. VSM are the three letters that could show up in that row, and then RC are what show up above it. What this is this is verbal, semantic, or material. That's components or features that you have to have. So if a spell requires you to have vocal command, verbal, if you are silenced or otherwise unable to speak, then you can't cast that spell. So semantic, that is like moving your hands, like doing the cool sorcerer stuff that you see in movies today. Okay, and M for material is just, again, your components, like one bird feather or 10 gold pieces or whatever, a piece of chocolate, whatever the material component is. All right, so that's your VSM. The R and C dictate that this is available to be cast as a ritual spell, or if it is a concentration spell, and it can be both of those. Ritual means, for a little bit of the rules, ritual is that it takes, I think, 10 minutes to cast, but it doesn't work, or it doesn't count against your spell slots. So you're not going to see this on like combat, because what good would casting something in combat that takes 10 minutes, what good would that do you? So these are things that are going to be more like quality of life spells, like your detect magic, maybe protect from good and evil, conjure food and water, stuff like that. All right. Concentration is that spell requires concentration to maintain. So if you can concentrate on a spell, let's look at detect magic. Okay, what we'll actually click on here is the eye, and that's going to pop this out. Okay, so here it is. It tells us the duration is concentration up to 10 minutes. So I could concentrate on this spell up to 10 minutes using one spell slot cast. Okay, I couldn't keep it going for an hour unless I used 6 spell slots, because 6 10 minutes would be that. Remember, if, let's say I'm trying to keep this concentration one up, and then I also cast guidance would cancel my detect magic because I can't concentrate on 2 spells at once. Okay, couple of other rules for concentration that you'll need to talk to your game master about or read yourself. You can always do that by just coming over here and typing it in, and you will find a rule. Spells, concentration, casting a spell, concentration, all sorts of handy stuff for you, okay? So that is your concentration in a nutshell, alrighty? Again, you can edit any of this stuff. If you, let's say, actually detect magic does come from my domain, so I'm actually going to put here in parentheses that this is a domain spell. That way, when my game master goes through my stuff and is like, well, Colby, you have too many spells selected, I can be like, oh, well, no, detect magic and magic missiles are both, from the granted by the domain, and not from, me just arbitrarily picking extra spells. So there we go. When we do that, it shows that's a domain spell. I'm going to go ahead and delete these extras down here. Again, probably when I was messing around with leveling up in one of the earlier videos. So that shows you that. So it really actually means I only have 4 spells, which is accurate based on my ability score modifier that per class sets the number of spells you can have, which is Wisdom, I think, on Wisdom or Charisma on a cleric, and then half of my character class level rounded down. So I'm level 2 currently, so that gives me 1 even. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So I'm told. So there you go. Now, let's say that you are a class that can change out their spells after a long rest, or even a short rest, as there are some classes and abilities that allow that. So let me show you again, kind of like in one of my earlier videos. Let's say that you don't really find yourself using Sanctuary that often. If you want to remember what it is, click on that. You ward a creature with range, within range against attack, blah blah blah. Okay, but let's say that you just don't end up using it like you thought you were going to. Alright? Well, go ahead and delete it. No reason to keep a spell. Now remember, I can know 4 spells plus 2 granted to me by my domain, but I can only cast per, long rest 3. Okay, so that means I could cast 3 of the total spells that I can know. All right, just remember to keep your slots remaining correctly. Okay. So let's say that we want to find a different spell to replace Sanctuary with. All right, what you want to do? Come over to your compendium. Okay, let's scroll down to the spells and click this filter button right there. Alright, if you know the spell name that you want, you can just type it in here, search, you're good to go. But if you want to research, okay, something that is available to Cleric, something that is a first level, but you can select multiples, okay, but let's just say level 1, okay, and you can select sources, but I want to check everything out, alright? Now, with just these filters, apply, and it lists everything for us. Again, if there are multiple versions, like the player handbook version versus the essential kit, which are going to, again, be very similar, not a big deal. Normally, I would recommend go with the player's handbook. It's more widely known. But you might see eventually things like there quite a few there's not a lot of spells in a ton of the rule books, but you might see, like, there's double races or something, from one from player handbook and one from Eberron Rising from the Last War. Okay, so once you kind of click on the spell, you learn about it, or you can just click the blue, pop up this window. Let's say that we find a spell that we like. Let's say command. We're going to pop it up out here into its window. But let's say, okay, we're trying to decide. Let's keep going down the list. Create or destroy water. No, I don't care. I don't want to be helpful. Detect poison, disease, guiding bolt. I always love guiding bolt. That's a great one. So, kind of keep these here as you are going between the options that are available to you. Okay? So then let's say that you end up liking Guiding Bolt and that's the spell you want to add. What you'll want to do, again, we're just going to drag and drop. Guiding Bolt, Player's Handbook, click, hold, drag it over here. Make sure you get your accepting drop from Compendium, drop it. It knows it's a second level, so it puts it, it knows it's a first level. Guiding Bolt is a first level, so it puts it there in your first levels. Now, the other nice thing is that if you click back on Core, you are going to see that Guiding Bolt has been added in here already. So if you want to cast it, you just come over here and click it. You can cast it from here if you want, but it just depends on what page you're on. Okay? So, drag and drop is always a great thing. You can do it with pretty much anything that you find in the Compendium. Very few things you can't. Right now, things that pop out at me would be like background features. If you want to change one for another, those don't seem to work at the moment. But instead of fixing that bug, since we're fixing to get a new system that it works in, they're just gonna let that kind of kind of fall out. But again, you can always click your cogwheel, change it on your character sheet. Okay. Alright, I am just kind of double checking my video training outline to make sure I don't miss things before I go into our next item. So again, bio right here, this is going to be all up to you about customizing your role playing and just your character. Treasures, maybe this is treasures that you actually find out while adventuring, or maybe it's something like a locket with a picture of your parents or your loved one and kids or something. Go ahead and put that in there. And, uh, that way some of the other players, after, they go and look at you, they will see that those items are important to you. Okay? Helps them kind of learn who you are. Alright? Alright, so that's those three, okay? The bioinfo is where you would see like your picture, avatar, and eventually the other stuff that we'll fill in. Attributes and abilities, we are going to go over this one in one of our upcoming videos about playing the game. So we're not going to hit it in this one since this is already a longer video at heart. Okay, so let's go back to our character sheet. Final thing over here we're going to bring up, and it's going to bring a couple of issues, is this settings thing. Alright, I have found my players, this is the most troublesome page because sometimes you don't know what the heck it's talking about. It's not the most intuitive, I will admit to Roll20 that it's not the most intuitive. I apologize to my players, but it does normally give you a lot of great options that give you some further control. You can kind of see, again, the headings are always listed down at the bottom, as in your typical D&D character sheets type, but you'll see some different things through here, okay? There's a few that I will go in after my players have finished off their character. I will normally go in here and make some changes, okay? And I'm going to go over those changes in a brief why do I do that, okay? Number one, if you're a PC, a player character, that's what you need to leave it as. Only if it's like a vehicle that you want to create, a kingdom, I don't even know what the heck that's for, I don't know. Or an NPC that you're trying to create, like you made a best friend and now y'all, go about. Just check with your GM, okay? The role queries, alright? There's a couple of different options here. So this is about rolling with advantage or disadvantage. So you have a few settings. You could always roll advantage, but every time it rolls into your chat or on the game board, it's going to roll 2 dice. So sometimes that gets a little bit much in the chat pane, especially when there's lots of typing and stuff going. So I don't always like that option. Advantage toggle or query advantage is what I would recommend. Again, never roll advantage is another one. No, there's going to be plenty of times you need to roll advantage. So advantage toggle, all that does is right here puts toggle switches. So normal, or do you have advantage, or do you have disadvantage? And also, is this a public roll or just a private roll to the GM? Okay, whichever one is red is selected. Now, my favorite option, though, is actually query advantage, okay, which what that will do is when you click on something to roll, like a strength saving throw, it does that pop-up and it says input value, advantage, yes, no, normal. So, and then you would do that and it would roll just one d20 as opposed to 2 d20s and, put that here in the chat. Alright, so definitely I recommend the query advantage. Whisper rolls to GM, you know what, I'm a little more indifferent on this because most of the time I am not going to have players whisper me, but some game masters do prefer that on some stuff. So again, I would probably recommend either the whisper toggle, or which again just puts it right there, or the query whisper, which again will put it when you go to roll a strength saving throw. Whisper first, is it public or just a whisper to the GM? Okay, advantage, normal, or we'll say advantage. Submit, rolls 2 of them, and it whispers, and here you can see that it's a green background indicating this only went to the GM. There you go. So select whichever your preference is. Alright. Auto damage roll. There is a current bug on the app where you cannot actually click the dice to roll damage or click a spell to roll damage or an attack. So what you would have to do if you are going to be using the app right now until the new app rolls out, go ahead and click the auto roll damage and crit. And then what that does is when you roll, like let's say Sacred Flame, okay, it's a public roll. Alright, it will automatically roll the damage. Okay, so there you go. Alright, that's up to you. Okay, but I would generally recommend don't auto roll damage and crit. Alrighty? Most of these other things are going to stay the same. Okay, proficiency bonus increase. I always recommend doing the by level, but your game master may prefer something else. The global the global modifier fields are what we are going to turn on, and I'm going to show you all those here in a few minutes. I promise y'all we are wrapping this video up in less than an hour. I do not want you watching a whole hour of television with me, so I'm going to be as brief as I can, but still thorough for you. Alright, at character name to templates, I always like to keep that on. That'll make sure you show some things like your name over here if you don't do it here, or in some of the game features, so leave that on. Auto level calculations, yep, encumbrance, simple. This is all, just kind of keep it there. But then I come down to the ammo tracking. Now, again, this has to be with somebody that has a pro account that has the API scripting actually written. So right now I'm just going to leave it off. You can show your exhaustion tracking, but I think it pops up just on the core page. So hero points if you want to, piety. I think there's also an option for stress, like if you're playing just a single player kind of thing, you can turn that on. So yeah, I kind of leave that right there, okay? If you do go to this page, you can always click over here, the launch level 1 Charactermancer. I think that's where you downgrade. Careful, cannot be undone. And then launch level plus character is the same as clicking it up here, alright? So those are the modifiers we're going to talk about. That's really the only other stuff that we do. The only other thing, yeah, I will, is add dexterity tiebreaker to initiative. And what that does, I don't even know if it's going to show. Oh, it does. So normally this is a -1, but I clearly have a 0.08. So it changes that modifier. The dexterity initiative tiebreaker only comes into play if you and another player roll, both 10s. Then whoever has the higher dexterity tiebreaker would be the one that goes first, and then the other would be the second one. Or say a monster and you roll the same, okay? So, yeah, I do kind of recommend turning that one on. But everything else we're going to leave just as it is, alright? One other note I will note to certain classes, if you use the Jack of all trades, you can click that on here, alrighty? Okay, with these global modifier fields, if you click back over here to the core, you're going to see some stuff has made my character sheet longer, alright? That's this global save modifier, which is in the saving throws. And we're just going to cogwheel this off real quick. It puts some in based on other characters in your game and yourself. Down here in the tools, it will give a global skill modifier, because this is considered a skill, okay, not a save. Alright, so that's the difference. Global what modifier? It's either going to be a global save modifier, global skill modifier, global attack, global damage, or global AC, okay? So those are the modifiers we're talking about, alright? So we're just going to, again, it kind of puts these out there, alright? But some of this stuff you've got to check once you turn this on. Remember, this is a little bit more of an advanced field, so you want to be careful. Like, especially, I always find this defense one pops up, and what that does is changes your default armor class. Well, okay, I don't want to turn this, on, because that's not true. My armor class is all in actuality 15. I remember that because I've looked at this character sheet while making these videos. So we would want to delete that off, okay? But let me show you where a global AC modifier would come in handy. Let's add something on, all right? The value, let's make it 2, okay? And let's name it shield. Alrighty. Okay, if you have your shield equipped, okay, you could have that right there, alright? And you know what, let's do something even more thorough. Shield of Faith is what we're talking about, which Shield of Faith adds on to your AC if player cast it on you, alright? So, you already know that clicking here will unequip stuff from your AC, alright? But, if you have some modifiers, let's say that you have a paladin in your group that regularly casts Shield of Faith on you. Well, instead of trying to remember, okay, I've got to remember, okay, +2 to my armor class right now. You can write this quick code right there, click that, and watch, our 15 has now become a 17. Alrighty? But it's important to remember, just like your equipment, just like your skill proficiencies, if the blue box is checked, it is counting. Alright? It is being auto-calculated. So if the player loses concentration and Shield of Faith no longer applies, you got to make sure you remember to unclick it there. Alright? So, pros and cons, pick whichever works best for you. Okay? You will see this, let's see, Bless. Let's say that you've got another player character that always casts Bless on, you. Bless will apply to your global save modifiers, your global attack modifier, and I think that's it. Yeah, Guidance is something that they can be casting that adds it onto your skills, okay? Some limited skills and stuff here. And damage modifiers might be, there's a ranger skill, for example. I think it's called Colossus Slayer, okay? Again, you're just going to click the cogwheel to add this in. Name is, and look, they have a rogue sneak attack as an example. But let's say it's Colossus Slayer. I think I still misspelled that. Damage, gosh, I don't remember, but let's say that it is a 1d4, okay? Not a 1d43. Critical damage, again, this is grayed out. That means currently nothing's in there. That's just what we would want to type. They're asking for a dice amount, which your damage, you could do this a flat, 2, all right? And then the type would be like Colossus Slayer. I think it is just whatever the type is. So I think like a ranger will put piercing because that's what most of the damage they do is going to be. All right. So now we've got this Colossus Slayer, okay, to piercing. All right. We've got it checked. So that means that it is going to auto-calculate into any damage that we do. So, if we roll our magic missiles, which remember, if we click it here, it's going to roll it out in our chat. Watch what happens, okay? Normally this is a 1d4 plus 1 force. But if we've got this Colossus Slayer or whatever selected, again, here's a Whisper, Public or whatever. Alright, it rolls. But if you come over here and look, Magic Missile Domain Spell cast, okay? Force damage, sorry. It's hard for you to see past that big cursor, but it's probably like 1, because then plus 1 would equal 2, and then, or whatever it is. But you'll see here, oh, it was the 3. Yay, so I rolled a 3, plus 1. But then, this piercing damage is from that Colossus Slayer, alright? And if you wanted to, you could change that to Colossus Slayer, so it says that specifically. I really just keep wanting to make that a U, don't I? Okay, save it. Now, if we roll magic missiles again, oh, yeah, do that. Now it gives us the damage here still, but now instead of it saying piercing, it says Colossus Slayer. So you know that's coming from Colossus Slayer. Alright? So any of these can modify a skill, a save, an attack, or damage, or your AC. Just remember, if the spell no longer applies, or the item, or whatever it is, just remember to unclick it. Alright? But you can keep these, here. And again, if you've got, as you go throughout, you may end up adding 5 of these. I've got one game where I swear there's like 10 just damage modifiers, and I'm only on like level 4. But, certain classes and stuff require that. So, that is your global modifier fields, y'all. Alright, I know this has been a lot of information, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Join us in our next video. We are going to actually see how you play a game after you have set up your character sheet to work the way you want it to work. Hope you all have a great time gaming. Until then, we will see you then.